Kontrol Mark III now features standalone MIDI templates. What's up everyone, Matt here. Today I'm going to show you how it works. MIDI templates are now on device of the Kontrol Mark III, allowing you to create, manage, and switch between different templates directly from your keyboard. This means you can use the keyboard standalone with a power adapter to control external synthesizers, drum machines, and other MIDI devices, or use it with your computer to control your DAW in unique ways. With MIDI templates, you can set up any number of control changes, program changes, key switches, and more. Plus, we are giving you the option to import and export templates straight to your computer. Today, we're going to break down a template with UDO's Super 6 binaural synthesizer, and if you want to check out this template, you can download it with the link in the description below. Let's start by creating a new template. To do that, I'm going to hold Shift and click Browser, and now you see we get this nice new MIDI templates screen. I'm going to go ahead and click New up top. Let's clear the name, and I'm going to use the 4D encoder and type in S. I'm going to push down 6-2, Super 6-2, and then I'm going to click Save. Next to New, we have Edit, which allows us to edit our template, Duplicate, so you can duplicate your templates, Delete, which will delete it from your list, Rename, which is super convenient, and Load. If you want to load a template, you can either click here or push on the 4D encoder. And now our template's loaded. If we want to edit this template, we're going to go back to our MIDI template menu and click Edit. Now we're in edit mode, and you can see tons of different options here. We have different pages, buttons and knobs. We can get to our pedals, touch strips and wheels, and our keyzones. And we're going to get into all of this a little later in the video. Let's go back to our buttons and knobs. Next to that, we have pages 1 and 2. That's default for a new MIDI template. To navigate between the buttons or the lower encoders, you just use the 4D encoder and go left or right, up or down. Now you can see we're on the lower encoders here. If you want to rename this, you can simply click Rename, and let's just type A for now and click Save. Now you can see it renames it. And if you want to reset the name, you just click Reset. And it's going to rename it to the Control Change, Program Change, or Note as the name. If you want to remove a parameter from a button or a knob, all you do is push in on the 4D encoder, and you're going to see it removes it. You can also do that down here. And if we click Done, you're going to notice those two are gone. And this is really convenient, especially for cleaning up your templates. To give you a better example, I'm going to go over to the UDO Super 6 template I created by clicking Previous. This allows you to flip between your templates. And you're going to see here, if I go to some of the other pages, none of these buttons are here. Let's keep going. Something like this page is a great example. You can see I'm using it specifically for an envelope. So I have my attack, decay, sustain, release, and then everything else is off. And again, that just really cleans up the templates and lets me know exactly what I'm editing. Let's go back to our new template, S6-2. I'm going to go Shift, Browser, and Edit. Now we're back in edit mode. And if you want to bring those knobs or buttons back, you just push in, and there we go, we got them. We do have some additional options. Let's go ahead and hold Shift, and you're going to see some of these functions up here change, such as this one. It goes from page to move. And now we can move our pages before or after one another by simply clicking the button here. Now we just moved page 1 to page 2, and we can flip between them. That's page 2 on page 1 now. They flipped around. Let's go back to Shift. We can add pages. So we can just click Add. And now we have a new page here, which is page 2. That's page 3. What's nice is it adds it in between the pages that you're currently on. Let's hold Shift again. You can duplicate pages and delete them. If you're going to delete, it gives you a confirmation. Hit delete, and now it's gone. Above the keyboard screen, we have 8 buttons. These can act as toggles, triggers, gates, or incremental switches. Let's check them out. When you're selected on a button, you have a few different options here. Let's start with Assign, and this is our message type. Right now, we're set to Control Change. We have Program Changes and Note Changes. Next to that, we have our MIDI channel 1 through 16. Then we have our number, so this is related to the Control Change number. If you're on Program Change, you're not going to have that option. If you're on Note, you're going to have a Note option. After that, we get to our mode, and we have a few different modes. We have Toggle, Gate, Trigger, and Incremental Switch. Let's check out toggle mode. I've gone back to the UDO Super 6 template, and we are selected on our first button here, which is for the ARP. You can see I have the assign as control change, MIDI channel 1. My ARP message is 86. Our mode is set to toggle, and then I have two values. And how this works is when I push the ARP button, it's going to send an on value, which is 64, which turns the arpeggiator on the external synth. When I push it again, it's going to send an off value, which is 0, which tells the synth to turn the ARP off. Here's how that works. Our next mode is gate, and how gate works is when you push and hold the button, it's going to send the on value, and when you release the button, it's going to send the off value. To give you an example, I'm going to set this button to message 92, which is our VCA LFO modulation amount. So what's going to happen is when I push and hold the button, it's going to turn the LFO all the way on, and when I release it, it'll turn it off. This is how that works. The next mode is trigger, and how a trigger works is it allows you to send a specific value when you push the button. Back on my Super 6 template, you can see I'm sending different trigger messages to activate the different functions of the chorus. On the Super 6, when you push this one button, it changes through the different chorus settings. So for chorus off, I'm sending value 0, chorus 1 value 32, chorus 2 64, and chorus 1 and 2 value 96. This is how that works. The final mode type is an incremental switch. And what that does is it allows you to set a range for your values and jump between that range using a specific amount of steps, whether that be positive or negative. I think one of the best ways to explain this is to show you an example using the octave range of an arpeggiator. On my Super 6 template, you can see I'm selected on ARP octave. I'm set to MIDI channel 1, CC message 82, and our mode is an incremental switch. My range is between 0 and 127, and I'm using 32 steps. So what that means is every time I push this button, it's going to jump 32 steps. So it'll start at 0, it'll go to 32, then it'll go to 64, 96, and then it'll go to 128, which is actually 0. You'll notice this other feature down here, which is called wrap, and you have two options, true or false. And what wrap does is once you hit the message 127 and you push the button again, it's going to send the minimum value, which is 0. If you have this set to false, it would add an additional 32 steps. So basically, you'd actually be going to 31. This is a nice feature because if it's set to false, it will just add those steps indefinitely, and you can send some really cool and unique messages just by doing this. I'm going to leave this on true. I'm going to click done, and this is how that works. Let's go ahead and turn on our ARP. You can see right now we're at a range of 1. If I push it, we go to 2. Now we're on 3, 4. And with wrap on, we'll go back to 0, which is 1. The next type of message you can send is a program change, and depending on what you're controlling, this can do many different things. You're going to notice you have very similar options to control changes, different modes, toggle, gate, trigger, incremental switch, all your value settings, and MIDI channel. I'm using these two buttons right here to flip through my presets on the Super 6. This one goes backwards a preset, and this button goes forward a preset. I'm set to program change on MIDI channel 1, and I have this set up as an incremental switch. This basically allows me to flip through 128 different presets. For preset backwards, I'm using negative step, so every time I push the button, it will go backwards, 1 step. For preset forward, you can see I'm going positive 1 step. So every time I push that button, it'll go forward 1 step, getting me to the next preset. Let's check this out. The final assign type is a note. Notes give you two options, toggle or gate. You have your note number, which is whatever note you're going to select on, MIDI channel, and the value that you want to send. I think they're really useful for sending something like articulation changes, so you don't have to tab all the way down on your keyboard to get to a lower or higher octave. Instead, you can use the buttons up top to control things such as staccato, sustain, legato, and more. For this example, I've created a MIDI template for symphony strings. Now, this is an NKS plugin, which gives you lots of control, but let's say you're editing multiple contact libraries and you want to have all those articulation settings right at your fingertips. This is how that would work. You can see what I'm doing is sending a note message as F6, which triggers the sustain articulation as a gate. If we go to the next one, you can see we're F#6, G6, staccato is G#6, so on and so on. And this is what that looks like. The last feature I want to show for buttons is the ability to change the color of each button. So we can go ahead and change this one to red. Let's go over, change this one to lime. Let's go cyan. And we'll change this one to plum. Now you can see we have all those buttons lit up as different colors. You could do things such as make a page one set of colors or make a certain parameter type like your envelopes a specific color. Moving on to the encoders, there's a few types like absolute, relative, or relative offset, and different ways to display them such as unipolar, bipolar, percentages, decibels, and more. Let's go ahead and push down to our first encoder here, and you're going to see you have similar options to the ones that you had for buttons. You have your assign type, your MIDI channel, your CC message number, and a few different modes. Absolute, which is for most general MIDI devices, and that's what we're going to be focusing on here in this video. We also offer relative and relative offset. Relative and relative offset messages can only be understood by devices that can accept those types of messages. You're going to want to check and make sure which device mode you need to use, but again, for this video, we're going to be focusing on absolute mode. Within absolute, we have our value, minimum and maximum, and then a few different display types. And to show you these display types, let's jump back over to our Super 6 template and start with the cutoff. Let's click Shift Browser, go to Edit so you can see what's happening here. On our cutoff, we are set to control change with number 74, which is what controls the cutoff on the synth. We're on absolute mode with the value of 0 to 127, and our display type is a percentage. This is what that looks like. Compared to something such as the attack, which is displayed as an integer, this is what that looks like. Another display type is bipolar integer, and I have this set to my DST tune. This is what that looks like. I also have my oscillator mix set to bipolar, but with percentage. The last one I want to show is volume. So I'm going to tab over down to my effects page, and here I have delay volume. If we go to our edit mode, go to our effects page, you can see delay volume here is set to GM volume decibel, and this is what that looks like. The next settings are standard across most general MIDI devices, but this page gives you options to change any of the parameters for your sustain and expression pedals, your pitch bend and modulation wheel, as well as the Touchstrip. Let's tab over to the next page, and you're going to see this looks very similar to how it did in the previous settings for pedals on the keyboard. We have our sustain expression, and both of our assigned slots. We have different modes such as switch, continuous, or off. You can invert, and if we tab over a page, you're going to get those same settings that you have for the encoders or the buttons. Since Sustain does use a TRS connection, you're going to see settings for the tip and the ring. For expression, you're going to have your control change types. Assign 1, you can set those, and assign 2. It's important to note that the template you select will act as the default template. This means that if you create a template for an external synth, and then you connect it to your computer to use with your DAW, any functions outside of NKS control for contact, complete control, and DAW integration will affect your computer's MIDI control. For example, if you set the sustain pedal to control pitch bend in your synth template, it will do the same when using your computer. It's a good idea to keep a default template on hand to revert to standard control settings when needed. Let's tab over to the next page, and here we get to our Touchstrip and wheels. We have our Touchstrip settings with different assign types, control change, pitch bend or program change, as well as our pitch wheel and mod wheel. The current settings for the mod and pitch wheel are standard for general MIDI, but you can change these to whatever you want. The Touchstrip we can assign how we'd like. I've switched back to the Super 6 template. Let's go to edit mode. And you're going to see here on my Touchstrip, I have it mapped to control change 91 from a range of 0 to 127. That actually controls my delay volume, and in the beginning of the video, I actually used the Touchstrip to control the delay. This is how that works. Another really cool thing you'll notice is the delay volume here is mapped to the same control change message. So when I move the Touchstrip, you're going to see it move on the screen as well. Keyzones are perfect for controlling multiple MIDI devices on one template with different ranges of your keyboard. Let's say you want to control your external synth as a bass on MIDI channel 1 using the lower keys, and an arpeggiator from your DAW on MIDI channel 2 using the higher keys. This is where a Keyzone would come in hand. Let's set that up now. Let's tab over, and here we are on Keyzones. You can see we're set to our type as note, MIDI channel 1, which is what the Super 6 is connected to. We can transpose up or down. We have velocity. Now this can be set globally or per key zone. And we have our low and high keys. These become available once we add additional key zones, and our color. This is what the Super 6 sounds like. Let's go ahead and add an additional key zone. On my computer, I'm running Contact with an instance of Glaze 2, and it's set to MIDI channel 2. So I'm going to go ahead and change that here. As I mentioned, you can shift the low key so we can add more notes from MIDI channel 2 if we want to, or less notes. We can also change the color. Let's change this to something like mint. Now I have the Super 6 here and Glaze 2 here. And I can play them together. Or maybe we want some lower notes for Glaze, so we can shift this down. Let's go down an octave and see what that sounds like. And this is just one example of a key zone. You can add an additional key zone or as many as you want, up to 16 different MIDI channels. You can control different synths, different plugins, all from one MIDI template. We wanted to give users the ability to not only save and recall their templates on their computers, but also the ability to share those templates with anyone. This allows users and developers to create detailed MIDI templates that can be uploaded directly to the keyboard without the need of any additional software. Here's how. So to do this, let's go back to our MIDI template menu. And when connected to the computer, you're going to see you have those import and export options. Let's go ahead and click import. Then you'll notice here on your computer, you get this nice dialog box. You can click add or remove, or you can just simply take a template and drag it over to it. And it's going to show up there. You can add multiple templates here, and then you click send. Back on the keyboard, you can see we have that template right here, and we can open it up. To export templates, we're going to hold shift and click browser, and then we're going to click export. You can see here you get an option to select multiple, so we can use the 4D encoder, select which ones we want, and click export. Back on the computer, you can see we get this nice dialog pop up. All we do is click open for where we want to save them. I'm going to put them on my desktop, and there they are. Now, one cool thing about these templates is these are just text files. So you can actually open these up and edit any of the parameters or any of the changes right here inside the template. So for instance, if we wanted to change this label from ARP to ARP mode, you can type it in there, hit save, and then send it back to your keyboard, and it'll automatically update on the keyboard. And that's the latest update to the Kontrol Mark III keyboards. We want your feedback, so let us know in the comments if there's something else you'd like to see. If you want to download the UDO Super 6 template I created, check it out in the link in the description. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.